The space station known as Black Drift was loud, dirty, and full of shadows. Neon lights flickered across metal walls, and strange alien voices mixed with rough laughter. It was a place where laws did not matter and morals were long forgotten. Inside a crowded alien bar, a traitor leaned heavily against the counter. His skin was green and rough, and his eyes were unfocused from too much drink. An empty glass rested in his clawed hand, and another waited in front of him. He laughed loudly without care, drawing attention from nearby aliens. Behind him stood a group of captives. They were weak, tired, and bound by energy restraints. Different species stood together in silence, united by fear. Their eyes told the same story: pain, loss, and hopelessness. The drunk alien waved his hand toward them, like they were nothing. He spoke loudly, boasting about his latest deal. He said they were slow, useless, and not worth the fuel to transport. Other aliens laughed, nodding in agreement. Then the traitor did something that shocked even the hardened bar crowd. He turned to the bartender and pointed at the captives. With a careless grin, he offered them in exchange for one strong drink. Just one drink for living beings. The bartender paused for a moment, then shrugged. To him this was normal. He poured the drink and slid it across the counter. The trade was done. The captives felt the weight of the moment sink into their hearts. Their lives had been sold for less than food, less than credits, less than respect. One of them lowered her head, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Another clenched his fists, fighting the urge to scream. They had hoped for rescue, for mercy, for something. Now they understood the truth of the galaxy too. Most species' life had a price, and sometimes that price was almost nothing. The drunk alien lifted his glass and drank deeply. He did not even look back to him. The deal was complete. The captives no longer existed around the bar. The noise continued. Music played. Laughter rose. No one cared. No one. Except one quiet observer at the far end of the bar. A human stood still. He had been watching everything, not with anger at first, but with disbelief. His eyes moved from the traitor to the captives, and back again. The human felt something twist inside him. This was wrong. Not illegal, not unusual, but wrong. Another human stood beside him, arms crossed, jaw tight. She said nothing, but her expression was enough. They both understood. Across the station, a human ship had docked only minutes earlier. Its crew was small but disciplined. They had come for trade and rest. They had not expected this. The first human slowly turned away from the bar. He activated a small device on his wrist. A silent signal went out. The captives noticed the humans watching. At first they felt nothing. Hope was dangerous. Hope had hurt them before. But something about the humans was different. They did not laugh. They did not turn away. The drunk alien slammed his empty glass down, demanding another. He never noticed the change in the room. He never noticed the silence growing. More humans entered the bar calmly. They spread out quietly. Their presence was steady, controlled. Other aliens began to feel uneasy. Humans did not behave like this. Humans were supposed to mind their own business. The captives felt it. Then a shift. Something was happening. For the first time since their capture, someone was looking at them, not as property, not as cargo, but as people. The drunk alien laughed again, raising his new drink. He joked about how easy it was to profit in this station. He did not know, he could not know, that his careless trade had just caught the attention of the one species known across the stars for doing the unthinkable, helping when no one else would. And somewhere deep inside the captives, a dangerous feeling began to rise, a feeling they had buried long ago. The bar returned to its usual noise, but something invisible had changed. The air felt heavier, as if the station itself was holding its breath. Most aliens continued drinking, laughing, and trading without concern. To them the shameful deal was already forgotten. The captives remained where they were. Energy restraints hummed softly around their wrists and ankles. They stood close together, not for warmth, but for comfort. None of them spoke. Words felt useless now. The drunk alien trader leaned back, enjoying his drink. He bragged loudly about his business skills. He told anyone who would listen that life was cheap in this sector. Several aliens laughed and raised their glasses across the room. The humans watched in silence. They did not rush. They did not shout. They simply observed. One human counted the captives carefully, another studied the restraints. A third focused on the traitor and his smug expression. Every detail mattered to the humans. This was not just an ugly scene, it was a test. A moment that revealed what kind of galaxy they were moving through. The lead human stepped forward slowly. His boots made soft sounds against the metal floor nearby. Aliens glanced at him, then looked away. Humans were unpredictable, and that made others nervous. He stopped a short distance from the captives. He did not touch them. He did not speak to them yet. Instead, he turned his attention to the traitor, the drunk. Alien squinted, trying to focus. He laughed when he saw the human. He made a rude gesture and lifted his glass. He asked the human what he was staring at. He said the deal was done. He said humans had no business here. Human replied calmly. His voice was steady and clear. He asked a simple question. He asked if the captives were really sold for a drink. The traitor laughed harder. He said yes. He said it was the easiest trade of his life. He said he would do it again. The humans exchanged quiet looks. There was no anger yet, only understanding. The second human spoke next. She asked what crime the captives had committed. The traitor waved his hand carelessly. He said crime did not matter. He said they were weak and unwanted. Other aliens nearby shifted. Uncomfortably, they had heard humans ask questions before. It never ended well for someone. The captives listened with cautious disbelief. No one had ever asked about their crimes. No one had ever asked if they deserved this. One of them lifted their head slightly. Their eyes met the human's gaze. For a brief moment, the human nodded. That single gesture meant more than words. The traitor noticed the silence growing around him. He frowned. He accused the humans of interfering. He warned them that this station did not care about feelings. The lead human replied without raising his voice. He said humans cared. He said that was the difference. That answer drew attention. More aliens turned to watch. Some mocked the humans under their breath. Others felt a strange discomfort. The traitor scoffed and demanded another drink. He said humans were soft. He said kindness was weakness. The human did not argue. Instead, he made an offer. He said he would pay for the captives. Not with insults, not with threats, with value. The bar fell quiet. Aliens stared in disbelief. Pay for them? Why? The traitor burst into laughter. He said the captives were already worthless. He asked what the human planned to do with them. Human answered simply. He said they would be free. The word echoed in the minds of the captives. Free. Fear rose alongside hope. They had heard lies before. They had been promised much and given pain. Security drones hovered closer, sensing rising tension. Station guards watched from the edges. They did not interfere. They wanted to see how this would end. The traitor sneered. He said freedom was expensive. He said humans could not afford it. The human smiled slightly, not with arrogance, but with certainty. He said humans always paid their debts. The captives felt something shift inside them. This was not pity. This was choice. Around the bar, whispers spread. Humans were doing it again, caring where they should not. The traitor raised his glass one last time, still laughing, still confident. He did not see the danger. He did not understand that the moment he dismissed human values, he lost control of the situation. And as the humans quietly prepared their next move, the captives realized something important. For the first time since their capture, someone had looked at the galaxy and said. The silence in the bar did not break. It stretched and pressed against every wall. Even the music faded into a low, distant hum. All eyes remained fixed on the humans and the drunk alien traitor. The traitor swayed slightly, holding his glass. Confidence still clung to him like a shield. He believed the humans were bluffing. Every species talked about values. Few ever paid the price for them. He told the humans they were wasting time. He said the station belonged to no one. He said rules were flexible for those with credits. His voice echoed with false authority. The lead human did not argue. He reached into his coat and placed a small data chip on the counter. The sound was soft, but it carried. The bartender froze. Several aliens leaned closer. They recognized the markings on the chip. Human issue, high value. The traitor's laughter slowed. His eyes narrowed as he tried to focus. He asked how much was on it. The human replied calmly. Enough to buy every drink in the bar, and more murmurs spread. Even hardened smugglers looked impressed. The trader hesitated for the first time. But pride is louder than caution. The trader laughed again. He said money was not the problem. He said humans did not understand ownership. He said once a deal was made, it could not be undone. He said the captives belonged to the station now. The human asked who exactly owned the station. The trader gestured around the room. He said everyone and no one. That answer changed everything. The human turned slightly and spoke into his wrist device. His words were quiet, measured, final. Across the bar security, drones shifted position. Station guards adjusted their weapons. Tension climbed rapidly. The trader felt it and grew angry. He accused the humans of starting trouble. He warned them that force would be answered with force. The human looked at the captives, then back at the trader. He said humans did not start trouble. They ended it. The captives felt fear grip them again. Violence always followed hope. They had learned that lesson too well. The trader ordered the guards to remove the humans. The guards hesitated. Humans were protected by multiple trade accords. Hurting them would bring consequences. The trader shouted louder. Spittle flew from his mouth. He was losing control, and he knew it. The bartender slowly pushed the data chip back toward the human. He said the station did not want conflict. He said perhaps the captives could be released quietly. The trader spun on him in rage. He accused him of betrayal. He said no one backed out of his deals. The human seized the moment. He stated clearly that the deal was illegal under interspecies conduct law. Selling sentient life without legal claim violated multiple treaties. Treaties written by humans. The trader's face drained of color. He had never bothered reading human law. Most did not. He laughed weakly and said those laws did not apply here. The human corrected him. He said they applied everywhere humans traveled. The captives watched the exchange in disbelief. Words were being used like weapons, and humans were winning. One of the captives stumbled slightly, weak from exhaustion. The human nearest to them stepped closer without touching, a silent promise of protection. The trader panicked. He grabbed his glass and threw it against the wall. It shattered, spraying liquid across the floor. He screamed that humans thought they owned the galaxy. The human replied evenly. He said humans did not want to own it. They wanted it to be better. Security drones moved in, not toward the humans, toward the trader. The station guards finally made their choice. They stepped between the trader and the humans. They told him to stand down. The trader stared at them in disbelief. He demanded loyalty. He demanded obedience. They refused. The power shifted fully then. The trader was no longer in control. He was just a drunk alien who had gone too far. The human placed another data chip on the counter. This one glowed brighter. He said this covered fines, damages, and compensation. The bartender swallowed and nodded. The station accepted. The restraints around the captives powered down slowly. The hum faded. Locks released. The captives froze, afraid to move, afraid it was a trick. The human spoke gently. He told them they were safe. He told them to come with him. As they took their first free steps, the trader collapsed into a chair, staring at his empty hands. He had traded lives for a drink and lost everything. The humans formed a protective circle around the captives as they moved toward the exit, and behind them, the bar erupted into noise again, but nothing would ever be the same. Corridor outside the bar was long and dim. Cold white lights reflected off steel walls. For the captives, every step felt unreal. Freedom still felt fragile, as if it could vanish at any moment. The humans walked around them, not in front, not behind, but beside. A formation that spoke of respect rather than control. Station alarms did not sound, but whispers followed them through the halls. Other aliens stopped to watch. Some stared with confusion, others with fear. The captives noticed how humans moved. Calm, focused, prepared. There was no celebration in their behavior, only purpose. At the end of the corridor, a wide observation chamber opened. Large windows revealed the endless black of space. Stars burned silently in the distance. For the captives, it was the first time in years they had seen the void without bars. The lead human signaled for a brief Stop, he wanted to make sure no one was following. He trusted his crew, but trust did not replace caution. The captives waited. Their bodies were free, but their minds were still chained by memory. One of them finally spoke. The voice was weak and uncertain. They asked why the humans helped. The question hung in the air. No one had ever answered it for them before. The human answered without turning. He said because no one else did. That simple answer carried weight. It needed no explanation behind them. Station officials gathered, not with weapons, with tablets and legal markers. Human law enforcement had arrived quietly. They spoke to the humans in professional tones. They reviewed footage. They reviewed transactions. Every detail was recorded. Captives watched in silence. They did not understand the words, but they understood the tone. This was not chaos. This was order. The drunk alien trader was brought into the chamber. His confidence was gone. His shoulders slumped. His eyes avoided everyone. He saw the captives standing free, surrounded by humans alive. Fear finally reached him. He shouted that humans were overreacting. He claimed it was tradition. He claimed it was business. The human officer listened patiently, then explained the charges. Trafficking, abuse, illegal trade, violation of sentient rights. Each word struck harder than a weapon. The trader laughed weakly. He asked what punishment humans could give. He asked if they planned to kill him. The human replied calmly. He said death was easy, responsibility was harder. The trader did not understand. He was led away, still shouting, still denying, still broken. The captives were escorted to a medical bay. Human medics worked quickly, but gently. They treated wounds. They offered food and water. No one rushed them. No one gave orders. Every choice was theirs. One captive flinched when a human reached out. The medic stopped immediately. He apologized. He waited. That moment shattered something inside the captives. They were not being managed. They were being respected. Outside the bay, more aliens gathered, watching through glass. Whispering humans did not conquer the station. They did not threaten it. They simply enforced their values that frightened the galaxy more than guns. Human commander addressed the station council. His words spread across communication channels. He stated clearly that human-controlled space would never allow such trades, and human presence meant accountability. No threats were made. None were needed. The captives rested, for the first time, without fear. Some slept. Some cried silently. One of them stared at a human emblem on the wall. A simple symbol, yet it now represented safety. Later the lead human returned. He told them they had a choice. They could leave, they could stay, they could ask for help. No debts, no contracts. Choice. The captives exchanged looks. Years of survival had taught them not to trust words, but actions spoke louder, and human actions had already spoken as they prepared to leave the station. Ships around them changed course. Word had spread quickly. Humans were here, not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as guardians of something rare, dignity. Across the stars a message quietly traveled, not broadcast loudly, but carried in fear and respect. If humans saw injustice, they would not look away. The space station returned to its routine within hours. Ships arrived and departed. Lights flickered back into their familiar rhythm. To most it looked the same as it always had, but beneath the surface, everything had changed. Word of the incident moved faster than any ship. It traveled through private channels, trade networks, and whispered warnings. A drunk alien had sold lives for a drink, and humans had answered in distant systems. Smugglers paused mid-deal. They replayed the footage again and again, not because of the captives, but because of the humans. They saw how calmly the humans acted, how carefully they followed law, how decisively they enforced it. This was not a violent response. This was something far more dangerous: consistency. On the station, the captives were no longer prisoners. They were guests. Human representatives arranged temporary housing, not cells. Rooms with doors that opened from the inside. Some captives refused to sleep at first. Silence made them uneasy. They were used to chains and shouting. Human counselors did not force conversation. They waited, they listened. Slowly trust began to form. Elsewhere the consequences unfolded. Trade councils issued quiet advisories. Routes near human space were marked with Warnings, slaver traffic shifted away like shadows fleeing light, not because humans hunted them, but because humans remembered the drunk alien trader sat in confinement. Sober for the first time in years, he replayed the moment in the bar over and over. He had laughed, he had mocked, he had dismissed human values. He now understood the cost. Human legal envoys arrived from neighboring systems. Their presence alone reshaped negotiations. They did not raise voices. They did not threaten sanctions. They simply presented evidence. Station leaders signed compliance agreements within minutes. None wanted to be an example. The captives watched these developments through transparent screens. They could not believe entire systems were adjusting because of them. When asked if humans planned to use them as symbols, the human officer shook his head. He said their lives were not messages. They were lives. That answer spread quickly among them. Some captives chose to return to their home worlds. Humans provided transport and protection. No repayment requested. Others had no homes left. Humans offered asylum, new identities, new beginnings. Every choice remained theirs. Across alien media networks, debates erupted. Some species accused humans of moral arrogance. Others quietly began revising their own laws. Humanity had not forced change. It had revealed contrast, and contrast was impossible to ignore. On the station, young aliens asked questions. Why did humans care? Why did they intervene? Older aliens struggled to answer. Human traders noticed something unexpected. Deals became cleaner. Contracts clearer. Exploitation declined in human-monitored zones. Not out of kindness, out of fear of human attention. The captives began training and healing. Some learned human language, others studied law. They wanted to understand the force that saved them. One captive said something that stayed with the human crew. They said humans were terrifying. When asked why, they said because humans cared even when it cost them. That kind of power could not be predicted. Weeks passed. The story became legend, not exaggerated, not glorified, just remembered. A single trade, a single drink, a single decision, and the galaxy adjusted its behavior. The captives stood together one last time before parting. They were no longer bound by fear, but by shared survival. They thanked the humans awkwardly, quietly. The humans responded with nods and simple smiles. No speeches, no ceremony. Because to humans, doing the right thing did not require applause. As ships departed the station, navigation systems updated automatically. Human space marked not as dangerous, but as watched. And across the stars, one truth settled in: humanity did not need to conquer the galaxy. It only needed to show up and refuse to accept what everyone else called normal. Time moved forward, but the galaxy did not forget. The incident on Black Drift became a quiet reference point, a moment others measured themselves against. In places far from human, space deals began to slow. Traders asked more questions. Station masters reviewed old agreements. Some pretended it was routine, others knew better. They were thinking about humans. Human ships did not increase patrols. They did not issue ultimatums. They simply continued traveling as they always had, calm, alert, present. That presence was enough. In several systems, slaver groups disbanded overnight. Ships were abandoned, records erased. No one announced the reason. Everyone knew the captives, now free, began their new lives. Some trained with human crews, learning navigation, engineering, and law, not as servants, as equals. Others chose quieter paths. Farming worlds, research stations, small colonies where skies were open and safe. They carried scars, but they also carried a story. Whenever asked why they trusted humans, they answered simply because humans gave them choice. That answer spread. Alien governments sent observers to human space. They expected arrogance. They found rules, clear rules, fair rules. Humans applied law to themselves first. That unsettled many. A council of 3 species debated whether humans were dangerous. They concluded humans were worse. They were consistent. Consistency could not be bribed. It could not be distracted. It could not be ignored. The drunk alien trader faded from public memory. His sentence was long and public, not to shame him, but to mark a boundary. Even his own species distanced themselves. Not out of morality, out of fear. Fear slowly changed shape. It became respect. On trade routes, ships adjusted course to pass through human zones. Insurance costs dropped. Conflicts decreased. Profit increased. No one said it aloud, but everyone noticed humans did not exploit this. They did not charge extra. They did not demand loyalty. They only demanded one thing: dignity. A human officer once explained it quietly. He said dignity reduced chaos. Chaos was expensive. Aliens understood cost. The former captives met again years later, not as victims, as representatives. They stood before a mixed council. Speaking clearly, without trembling, they described the bar, the drink. The moment everything changed. No embellishment, no anger, just truth. The council listened in silence. Some species resisted. They argued tradition. They argued survival. A former captive answered calmly. They said survival without dignity was just slow death. That statement ended the debate. New regulations passed slowly, carefully, not because humans demanded them, but because no one wanted to be on the wrong side of human attention. Children in distant systems learned new warnings, not about monsters, about witnesses. Humans were watching, not always, but enough human crews heard rumors. Stories grew, some exaggerated, some misunderstood. Humans did not correct them. Fear that led to less suffering was acceptable. One human captain summarized it best. He said if being decent scared others, that was their problem. The galaxy adapted, markets changed. Stations cleaned up. Security improved. Not everywhere, but enough. The captives, now free, looked back only once. They did not feel anger. They felt resolve. They would not let the galaxy forget, and the galaxy would not, because humans had done something rare. They had shown strength without cruelty, power without domination, justice without revenge. Across the stars, a quiet rule formed, unwritten, unspoken. If humans stood up, something had gone very wrong, and it was time to stop pretending it was normal. Years passed and the galaxy changed in ways few had expected. Not through war, not through conquest, but through memory. The story of Black Drift did not fade. It sharpened. It became a reference whispered in council chambers and trading docks, a reminder of a moment when the universe had been forced to look at itself. The captives were no longer called captives. They were known as survivors. Each had taken a different path. One became a legal advisor helping rewrite trade laws. Another joined a mixed species relief fleet. Several returned to rebuild their worlds with human support. None of them carried chains anymore, but all carried the same lesson. Life had value even when the galaxy said otherwise. Humanity did not build statues. It did not name ships after the event. Humans rarely did. They continued exploring, trading, and protecting routes, doing what they always did. Yet wherever they went, the reaction was different. Ports once hostile, now opened early. Security, once aggressive, now cooperated. Questions were asked before lines were crossed. Humans were no longer underestimated. A generation of young aliens grew up hearing the strange warning: if you sell a life cheaply, humans might notice. And if they noticed, they would care. That possibility alone reshaped behavior. The drunk alien trader became a footnote, not a villain, a lesson, a reminder of what happened when cruelty met accountability on Black Drift. A small plaque appeared years later. It was placed quietly near the old bar. No announcement, no ceremony. It simply read, "Here lives were valued." Visitors often stopped to read it. Some scoffed, some reflected, all remembered. One of the survivors returned there once. They stood for a long time watching ships come and go. A human officer approached and asked if they were all right. The survivor nodded. They said the galaxy still scared them sometimes. The human replied that it should. Fear kept people careful. The survivor smiled and said this fear felt different. It felt protective. Elsewhere, human training academies studied the incident, not as a victory, as a case study. They focused on restraint, on patience, on law. Human cadets learned that the strongest move was often the quiet one. Across the stars, new alliances formed, not centered on power, but on standards. Species that wanted stability aligned with human space. Those that wanted chaos avoided it. Humanity accepted both outcomes, because control was never the goal, meaning was the survivors gathered. One last time older now changed, but steady, they spoke of the moment in the bar, of the drink, of the laughter, and of the humans who did not laugh. They agreed on one truth: hope did not arrive loudly, it walked in calmly, asked questions and refused. To leave that was the legend, not of heroes, not of battles, but of people who decided that some things were not for sale. The galaxy continued to struggle, dark corners remained, cruelty did not vanish, but it no longer hid behind normality, because somewhere out there, humans might be watching and caring, and in a universe that once sold lives for a drink, that was enough to change everything.